welcome. Wow.
Welcome.
Wow. Anthony, you're like our very first episode. I totally butchered saying hello as well. So can I blame you for this?
Must have
Just
jinxed you. I
you
guess I'm
did.
cursed.
Well,
I can
well,
introduce you.
oh, yes, please
Welcome
introduce
to
me.
Teach Jen Tech with Jenn and Anthony Campolo. Jen's a developer advocate at Avon, where she teaches people about databases and APIs and even Kafka. And my name is Anthony Campolo. I'm a developer advocate at Edgio, where we deploy sites that are fast.
I am keeping that clip forever. That was marvelous. Thank you, Anthony.
I'm hanging out with
And
Scott too much. He's rubbing off on me.
oh my gosh, he is so good at doing like the
Bringing the energy. Yeah. Doing the
yeah,
radio voice. Yeah.
and always bringing it up during the streams or during the Twitter
The
Spaces. I'm like,
spaces, yeah.
damn, you're good. You're
Yeah, that's his
good.
primary job. We call them the station breaks. You have a specific term for when you stop the conversation, you let everyone know you gotta go follow the people who are on the space and that we're talking about this. And that if you're a beginner or you're just in the crowd and you want to chat, come up and chat. He always hits those 3 points every single time in a station break.
Oh, I like it. Station breaks. I dig it.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it.
Yeah, super smart.
Okay, y'all. We're doing things today. We are learning about Docker, which is funny, and I keep doing this of doing things very, very backwards. Of I will learn about, try to do something really technical, like Anthony's in my first stream was making a React web app, and I
On
had
Vercel.
on Vercel, where I barely had any idea what JavaScript was.
Yeah, but you had
Let
a site
alone
at the end of that stream. That's the most important part.
I did. So today we are going over the basics of Docker. I set it up on my computer about 2 weeks ago as I've been learning about Postgres. And then we also, for the rest of this week, I have Ben coming on tomorrow, Ben Gamble, and we're going to be talking about the basics of data. So I like that this week we're kind of like taking a step back on two of the streams. And then Friday is TypeScript Day. I like TypeScript Day.
You have TypeScript Day every week.
Every other week.
Every other week, yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
TypeScript days are fun.
So you know more TypeScript than me right now, then?
No.
No, I'm
I feel like
serious. I've gotten away with not writing TypeScript my entire career. It's been a rare privilege of being a developer who creates his own templates and projects. Is that I just built everything in JS and no one can tell me otherwise.
okay. I'm typing this out to for the
Which
chat
people right
of
now are hearing me that and they're like, I hate this guy. How dare he write JavaScript and force others to deal with his JavaScript? And I'm like, how dare you force people to deal with your TypeScript is what I would say to that.
I think surprisingly, and Josh knew this, Josh Goldberg, for those who may not know, is the author of this book
He's
and
been
has
on
been
my podcast. Technically, the episode is not aired yet, which I feel terrible about because it's been a really long time, but it will air soon, in the next month or two.
Everyone, please excuse my sniffles because they're not going away. It is very springy here. Yeah, this week we actually get to start going over part 2, functions.
Nice. There you go. Functions is the most important part because that's going to map a lot closely to what you do with a React app where you have a bunch of functions that you're tossing around. You want to make sure they're type safe.
And it's very, very cool doing this because Josh, the questions I ask, Josh knows that it's from when I don't know JavaScript that well, or I know it in JavaScript, yet I don't know the name of it. So that's been a huge piece of going through this with him has been, oh, I do know how to do this. It's just I didn't know.
It's slightly more complicated and with a couple extra steps.
No, a lot of times it's been something I've done. I just had no idea that's what the name of it was.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, this is why it's... So do you have an example of that? Like what a thing was that you didn't know the name of?
A module.
A module. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's an important one.
And if I understand a module, it's basically where it's like a little subsection that it uses your information and that you get types from. So it's like can be a list of like, so I was using it in my one of my Astro layouts websites that what already had TypeScript set up, and it had a list of all of its types, and each
Mhm.
like section of them are a module.
So a
And
module
it,
is more general than types at all. A module is just a chunk of JavaScript code or TypeScript code in one place you want to import into another place. So you could have a JavaScript module with no types whatsoever being imported from one file into another file. So that's like that's the general definition of module. But in terms of like what you're talking about, importing types from one place to another, that's like a use case of a module. I don't know if that makes any sense.
it does, it does.
Great.
And
Awesome.
that is one of the parts that I found so interesting of my podcast that I was interviewed on. It was they were like, "Hey, so what type of tech do you do?"
You do databases and event queues and JavaScript is what you do now. That's your answer. Like embrace it.
I was just like, I know some TypeScript and some
you
Python.
should you should tell people that you're the inventor of Postgres is what you should tell people when they ask you.
No,
And then they'll
no.
be so confused they won't even know what to say. Like, I'm kidding, but I work for a database company.
Yeah, which is yes, the yes. So it's a lot of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been like almost a year. We are like 2 months away from it being a year since Teach Gen Tech is launched, which is
Let me check
bananas.
the date. Teach Gen Tech.
It started
Anthony
July 1st. You were on July 5th.
5th. That was so this is 9 months ago.
Is
And
it the
yeah,
5th? Let
July
me get the
5th,
day right.
2022.
Oh,
Good times.
sure. It's only because I remember you were my second episode and you Yere was on Friday the 1st, and then you were on Tuesday. That's the only reason I remember that.
That's funny.
And it's crazy because that goes into the language that I'm learning to say because the last year I've been like, oh, I'm learning XYZ. Well,
Mhm.
at one point you learn and then you can actually talk about it. So you
True.
actually know it. You're not just learning it. And I didn't know how to talk about that, but that is okay.
That's
Well,
right.
we can move into the Dockerness.
Hold on, let me drop this in a couple discords real quick in case anyone wants to come hang out.
Ooh,
I feel lonely.
yay.
I feel lonely. There's no one in the chat right now.
Well, I think it's because everyone else decided to stream at the same time. B Dougie is streaming, Rizal is streaming, Ramon is streaming, Josh is streaming.
How dare B Dougie stream right now?
We are like all streaming at the same time. And this is one of the best and worst parts about being friends with streamers is 9 times out of 10 you have something to go watch
I'm
because you're like,
especially bummed because I would be watching B Dougie's stream right now. He hasn't streamed and like he's been very sporadic in the last like 3 months, and his was the first stream I ever watched. I started watching B Dougie's stream
"Aw,
2 years ago. It was the first Discord I was ever in too.
that's crazy." I love how with Discords, you just kind of end up. One of the things you did was try not to overwhelm me with Discords.
I hear if you do
Yet,
like one Discord every couple of weeks, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and I'm not very active in any of them
But they're there
except
now, and you have
yes,
resources if you need them. That's the
but
important
I'm
part.
only active in one Discord, and it's
Mhm.
the open source raid guild,
Oh yeah,
and it's
Jacob's Discord.
Jacob's
I'm in that
Jacob's
one.
Discord.
I'm not active at all in it though.
Yeah, like that is my go-to. Like I always ask questions there,
Yeah, so
and it's
I have mine ranked honestly, which is how
ooh,
because it's top to bottom. So you rank it whether you are realizing it or not. So my ranking is I go Redwood JS, so he's going to be on top, even though I really don't hang out in it very much. Then Lunch Dev, then Theo's Discord, then Swix's Discord, then Open Sauced, Brian's Discord, then Show My Chat, which is not super active but has the best collection of streamers, tech streamers that
it
exist.
does. I love
Yeah, that one's gonna
gotcha.
blow up one day. And then Nick Taylor's Discord,
Wait, Nick
imdeveloper.com.
Taylor has a Discord?
He does. I'll send you an invite. And then
Thank you.
Learn, Build, Teach, which is James Q. Quick's Discord.
Yep.
And then Unicorn Utterances is a new one I just joined. We'll see on Corbin's Discord, Corbin Crutchley.
Corbin
and
has
then
a Discord
and then
too.
Trash's Discord, and then Front End Horse. I feel bad because Front End Horse used to be up like 7 places, but the conversations are not fully what I'm into these days, so I don't spend much time in Front End Discord anymore. But I love Alex Trost. He's the man.
Corbin and I just became friends a few weeks ago when we had a Friday night stream that had like 12 people on stream at once.
Yeah, no, I hopped in for like 5 minutes on that one. It looked super fun.
I was coding and everybody else was bullshitting, and then I would just interrupt to ask questions. Oh my gosh, Big Dougie, you're here.
Yeah, he probably just popped in to leave a message before he starts his stream.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a Secret Sauce episode going with Brian. Have you watched any of his Secret Sauce interviews?
Yes.
They're
really
good.
So good.
Yeah. Have you watched one with Ryan Carniato?
No.
So watch that one. That's probably my favorite one he's done.
Can you link that one for everybody?
Yes.
If you have that up. I would say, like, I don't know if anybody else has this, but there's like people that make an impact on your life and your career that you don't talk to often. And that would be B. Dougie. Because he
has an impact on everyone's career, and not everyone he doesn't have enough bandwidth to talk to everyone all the time.
No, it's weird because like if I were to be like, hi, I wouldn't know what to say to them.
Well, that's because with people like that, if you have like things to do, like I only message Brian like if there's like I want him on my podcast. I think I could be on his podcast. There's like a collaboration we can do. Like I don't just like message him in the random day, like, hey, how's it going, buddy? You know, because like he's a busy dude. You know, like he doesn't have time for those kind of messages. Yeah. And so, but as long as you can find like you've had him on Teach Gen Tech. So like that's a good example of a time you get to collab, and you would be a good guest for the Secret Sauce because he would love to talk to you about your journey through streaming and getting into this stuff. Like you'd be a great guest for that. So if you're ever in San Francisco, you should hit him up and be like, "Hey, can I get on the Secret Sauce?" And he'd be like, "Sure."
That actually reminds me, when he was supposed to be on my stream is when I dumped water on my laptop.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was heartbreaking. Yeah.
But you eventually got him on. I'll drop a link for that one too.
Yes. He did come on the show. He was so kind. It's one of those people that like whenever I get really nervous because I've had to like postpone them or like life happens, I get like more nervous about the stream. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's not that bad. Okay, cool.
Are there only 6 videos showing up on the Teach Gen Tech YouTube page?
Because they're all live streams. I'm slowly going to be downloading them from live streams.
This is confusing. I really hate that YouTube does this.
That's a big reason I started doing it, where this is only going to Twitch, and then I download it and upload it to YouTube. And it actually does better that way than it does with the live streams to YouTube.
Sorry, say that again. You upload it to where and to where?
So I stream with Twitch, so it downloads. I can download it from Twitch, and then I manually upload it to YouTube.
So we're not streaming on YouTube right now.
Correct.
Okay. I do that the same way with mine, and then sometimes I spend a month putting off uploading the YouTube video, like I just did. Oh, here it is. Okay, I found it.
That is.
You don't have Brian Douglas's name or open source in the title of this video. It took me forever to find it.
This is why I need to go back through and do them. Also, one of the reasons why I'm like, if I download them from a live and move them to that, which I can change the dates they were recorded. So that's what I'm also planning on doing.
I have a lot of ideas of what you should do with your archive to make it a little simpler to go through and sort and catalog and things like that.
Yes, please. Send over my way. I also have my websites to do. So
that's the thing. It will combine with the websites. The website should be the source of truth. So the website should have a page for every single episode, and every single episode should have a page with links to everything that happened, including the video and the repo and description and information about the guest and timestamps. Those are the that's the thing.
There's only like 77 streams and 6 videos. So there's only like 80. And I think I have roughly the
Only.
same
Yeah.
for uh, my podcast.
Yeah.
So that is that is all on the to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
Yay! But yes, everybody is streaming right now, which is great, and we will send this after it's uploaded to YouTube, so they can watch the recap of how to
Sure.
set up Docker. Which,
That's right. We should probably start doing.
yeah, we should probably start doing that. Oh yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Which,
So let's talk about Docker. I can tell you my history with Docker because it's fun. Docker
yes.
is an extremely confusing but useful and now ubiquitous tool in programming. It took me an extremely long time to figure out how to use it, which is why I wanted to hop on here and just like walk you through it. An example that's not incredibly complicated. It will take you 9 hours to figure out because it took me multiple hours to write this 5-minute tutorial that we're going to go through because the resources for Docker are so awful or they're just like out of date. And so all we're going to do is we're going to create a Node Express server that's going to return a web page with like a single H1 on it. That's all it's going to do. Then we're going to containerize that server and then run that container on your computer. We're not even going to deploy it anywhere. The main thing that I think this example shows is that you can use Docker in lots of different ways because you're using Docker right now for a database. So this is not going to
Mhm.
be necessarily what you're going to do with the Postgres stuff, but it's going to give you a better conceptual example of what people mean when they talk about Docker and they talk about running their application in Docker or deploying their website with Docker.
Mhm.
Because when you just run a Postgres database, that's really just for testing purposes. Like some people will actually deploy their Postgres databases in a Docker container, and those people are setting themselves up for a bad time in the future because you should not put your database in an ephemeral server that is running in a container that can be wiped out at any time. Some people do it anyway, though. I do it with a bunch of my railway applications. That's because they're kind of demo apps. But for the most part, if you're running a database, you usually want to actually run that database on a database server, which is not using Docker. What Docker is doing is taking that database and is creating kind of like a virtual version, self-contained version of it that can just run on your computer in a way that makes it simpler to access and to work with than if you're actually running Postgres on your computer. Because you've gone through this whole struggle of trying to download and run Postgres on your local computer, which is something I actually think developers should not do. I think that is not
Oh
something that,
yeah, it was just the experience of seeing if I could
yeah,
do
you
it,
should
and
do it
that was
to learn how
such
to
a
do it
struggle.
so you can know why you should never do it again, is what that exercise is. So what more people do is they'll run it in a Docker container, which is what you're kind of learning to do, or they'll go one step even further. What I do is I just deploy a Postgres database on Railway, which is running in a Docker container on Railway, but then it's not running on my machine. It's already over a network because then if you're going to have weird network errors, you can debug that by working with a live database in production. It's just a live database in production that you can blow away at any point in time. So that's mostly what I recommend. But as I was saying, what we're going to do today has nothing to do with any of that. We're just going to run a node server just to kind of figure out what's it like to use Docker to like build and deploy a very, very small, tiny application.
And I realized that I probably should have like prepped you for these questions. Of
No, you shouldn't have. I'll get better answers if you don't.
Okay, well then I will ask them when we get to it. So let me go ahead. So once we get done today, y'all, I will have a README to share. This is something I've been working on doing, and
Good.
Anthony is a big reason why. And oh, I do want to share this. It's not an official README. It's very similar, but I had to start doing this so that way I could get help on my Postgres project.
Uh-huh.
So this actually, which this will be very easy to put into a README. So share screen, entire screen. Yay. All right. So this is basically a giant README because it's
But
week
you
one,
wrote
week
it in a
two.
Google Doc because you hate yourself.
No, because I need other people's feedback and to be able to
Ah,
change it very
if only we
easily.
could collaborate on a README in a GitHub repo.
Sir, sir.
I just hate Google Docs. I understand why lots of people use it.
But it's a lot easier to collaborate just
That
this,
is. You
just
can leave
because,
comments and gotta open a
yeah,
PR and I
yeah.
understand.
So it was really helpful. And this is why I was like so excited because, yes, you make fun of me for having to use my tablet to write it down and then upload it,
I
blah,
don't
blah,
make
blah.
fun of you for that. I'm telling you, you're adding an extra step to your workflow, and that's okay. But if you spend more time practicing typing out your thoughts in a README, it may be harder now, but you'll get better at it as you do it more. That's all I'm saying. Like you can do what you want to do and whatever you find easier right now, but you can develop skills by practicing them. That's my point.
I agree with that. And also, people have different learning techniques, and sometimes they do take extra steps,
Mhm.
which is annoying. But I was so excited because I
I have
was
an
like,
education degree. I'm a teacher. Like I understand that, but I would also still recommend you try multimodal stuff because even people who excel at a certain kind of learning should do other types of learning that are harder for them because they will learn in a different way, which in the grand scheme will be useful. And I know it
nah.
feels uncomfortable because people don't want to do that because learning is actually hard.
Learning is hard, but it is fun. And thank you for the follow. Yes, yes. We have a lot to cover today.
Hey, it's
And
CM Griffin. I know CM Griffin. I mean, I know he's a streamer. Can't say I know him super well, but appreciate you being here. Thank you.
yay. It's definitely something that I feel like there's so much that goes into this. And y'all, if anybody's wondering why I may come across as mean or give
This
Anthony
is mean.
funny
You
faces or
come
something.
across as confident in your own decisions, and that's a good thing, and you shouldn't
Oh,
apologize
that's
for it.
good. Well, I was just gonna tell them like you're my internet big brother. That's
That's
all I
right.
was gonna say. Because that's
Okay,
like,
but you shouldn't apologize for pushing back on my own advice because that's fine. You should push back, but you should also take it into account.
thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate that. Okay. So we have the guest up for today of Teach Gen Docker. And then we have Docker up, which I did already download.
Sweet.
So we will go through that. And CM Griffin, I need to check out your content now. Let me go follow back so that way I can check out mean streamers. I like mean streamers. That would be
The
fun.
meaner, the better.
I
Okay,
mean,
let me share
I feel like I don't know. I don't think Theo's mean, but I do say that's why he makes funny content.
that.
But I can't say he's mean. I don't know if that's the right word.
He's mean to some people sometimes for reasons that he think justifies him being mean. And I think more often than not he's correct, but every now and then he is a little mean. But that's because
Okay.
he has a
Oh,
confrontational
that's a
form
good
of
way of saying
communication.
it.
Yeah, I would say he's mean. I would say he's confrontational, which some people interpret as mean. So it kind of depends on
Mm-hmm.
whether people are used to dealing with confrontational people. I can deal with confrontational people, and I choose not to be confrontational most of the time because there's a certain percentage of people who get very, very turned off by conflict, and that's why there's like a subset of people who extremely dislike Theo. But I think it's fine. It's just you're walking a fine line when you do it.
That is true. That is true. Okay. So we have a to-do list, which I am excited about. And for those who also want to know something kind of funny, is while I was applying for jobs and having to like get help and approval from whatever project I was working on, half the time it was Anthony cleaning up my readmes and restructuring them so they look pretty like
just
this.
just polishing them, you know.
Polishing them,
Yeah.
polishing them. All the content was there, just
Mm-hmm.
making it a bit more readable. And I dig it. Ooh, CM Griffin, same. I am nice mostly, but I don't mind an argument. It's good practice. That
Right,
is fair.
because most people are very set in their opinions, and it's good to have them challenged and force you to actually defend them because then you may find that your opinion is not as firm as you might have thought it was.
Touche.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get too far, because one thing I have learned since starting Teach Gen Tech is when there's something that I've given of a to-do list or something like that, I start to just kind of glance over the entire thing so I might know where I'm going.
You should. That's why there's an outline at the top.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm very excited because it might be in your article. Let's open your article in a new tab. Okay, I'm not seeing it here either. Yeah,
What were you
tables,
hoping would be in it?
list of images, run an image, that is close. Create a build a container.
What are you looking for?
What is a container? Like a definition. What is a container?
Mm-hmm.
What is an image? And what is a volume?
Volume will not be in that blog post. It's not doing anything with volumes, but the other ones are defined within them once they are first introduced. So for container, create and build a container is where the title will probably be. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I don't know if I actually give specific definitions of those two terms within this blog post, because the point of this blog post is kind of to explain each of the steps and what they actually are. And by the end, you'll understand what an image and a container is, because I found that giving the baseline definitions don't actually make any sense. But the difference between an image and a container will make sense once you build an image and then run, and you build it. You create an image, you build a container, and you run a container. So where an image turns into a container will make more sense once you've done it. So that's why I could give you the textbook definition of both those terms right now. They wouldn't mean anything to you. And then we'll go through the exercise and then we can kind of go back to them. So let's just do that. Define. Actually, let's ChatGPT. This is a good use case for ChatGPT. Let's ask ChatGPT to define a Docker. What's the difference between a Docker image and a Docker container?
You are such a ChatGPT advocate.
Because this is going to give a better answer than any explanation written in the entirety of the Docker docs. I know because I've read the Docker docs and they're trash. So people should use ChatGPT for this.
I will say the Docker docs were easier than the Postgres docs.
Postgres is the only thing that is worse than the Docker docs. Postgres, just installing Postgres is so freaking hard. Not even the docs. Like, installing should be before you even need to read the docs. You can't even figure that part out. It's incredible. It's the most important piece of software like ever invented, and it has the worst website ever.
It was tough. It was tough, but that's okay. Well, we moved through it, and we'll make articles and blogs about it. It'll be good. It'll be good. All right.
All right, here we go. So I'm dropping these in the chat. A Docker image is a lightweight, standalone, and executable software package that includes everything needed to run a piece of software, including the code, runtime, system tools, libraries, and settings. So that's a lot of words. It's actually not that complicated of an explanation. It's just such a big explanation. It almost becomes meaningless. It's technically correct, though.
I feel like where I was getting confused when I set it up was, I will ask you after container. There you go.
So a container is a running instance of a Docker image. So that's why I said we'll create an image and then we'll build and run a container. So that's what it means right here, a running instance of a Docker image. When you start a Docker image, it creates a container. See, that's great. That's such an awesome way of explaining it. I've never heard that explanation before.
So, and that makes sense. Like, the container itself makes sense.
Yeah.
And running a container makes sense. What, going back to the image one of where I think is hard for myself, maybe others, was, okay, so when we create a project and it goes on GitHub, it has, its own main folder that you go into to be able to make all these changes and things. And so in my mind, that's what I was comparing an image to, but it's not the same folder structure.
Yeah, it's close in the sense that the image you can think of as a bunch of code that's going to exist in a GitHub repo. That's what we're going to be creating in this example. But the important part is, what is like the Docker file? The Docker file is what explains how to build the image. And that's the vast majority of what this tutorial is about what are the steps of the image itself. And the steps are going to be, it's going to take your node project and do kind of what you do on your computer, where you like have a package.json, you install dependencies. Once you have that dependencies, you can run your server, and you run your server with a certain command. So those are the steps that are going to be in our Docker image.
Makes enough sense.
Yeah,
I
and this
think
and
it's
this is
going to
why I
be,
say a lot of these terms don't make sense until you've already done it. So that's why I'm saying we shouldn't get too hung up on definitions right now. We should do the thing and then kind of talk about what happened. Unless you have other
yes.
questions, which are if totally fine. If you have more questions, I can talk about this forever.
No,
So
I can't type at the same time. And
Mhm.
like, I can't talk and type. And I just wanted to
Cool,
post every your blog
cool.
because
Yeah,
I will.
this is a good blog post. This is one that was one of the first that took me a long time to write, and I had to research something I knew absolutely nothing about. And I was able to create a resource for myself that I have continued to use for like many years, like this tree being a good example. And I was learning it because I wanted to figure out how to containerize Redwood because Redwood was talking to all these companies that were running containers and we were trying to figure out how to get Redwood to run on a Docker container. And I was like, I don't even know how to freaking run a basic node server in a Docker container. I'm not gonna be able to figure out how to do it with Redwood. So as I was seeing that conversation play out, I created this as a resource for myself and an exercise for myself to learn what a freaking Docker container is and how to work with it. And I feel like it's pretty battle tested. I just ran through it today, even though it's 2 years old, it still works as expected.
Sweet.
So we'll see how it
Yay.
goes with you.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
yo, how's it going?
it's got style laggy.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I ever, me and last names. Your last name is super easy, and just you're AJC Web Dev. To this day, you are AJC Web Dev.
That's good. Yeah, I don't know if my last name is necessarily that simple. Some people find other ways to pronounce it, and based on just looking at it, it can even be a couple things. Yeah, it's whether it's camp or comp is what people get confused about. Some people say Campolo.
Yes, that is how he taught me.
Camping and polo. That's right. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
camping and water polo. Campolo.
yeah, yeah. Well, we got there. We got there.
And
And
we got
what up,
Elian.
Alien?
What's up,
When are you coming on the show?
Elian?
Keep talking about it. Alien?
Elian.
Alien?
Yeah,
Alien?
I'm not sure. So, but I know that they're on the
Well,
Astro team.
when you come on the show, you can correct us on how to say your name properly, which I should probably follow up about.
Yeah.
But hey, we're not working on Astro today for once. Okay, so
All right. So the first
let's see.
steps in the create project section are just going to create a folder, initialize a package.json, and then create 3 files: a JavaScript file, a Docker file, and a Docker ignore. The Docker ignore being much like a get ignore.
Move. Well, because I have to do this in terminal because since I don't have a container yet, I can't do it on Docker, correct?
Correct. We're eventually going to run some commands that are going to do stuff that will affect your Docker desktop thing, but that's not until later in the exercise. We're going to start by just creating a regular JavaScript project.
I was so against this when I first started, and I'm like, I'm not even going to try to retype all of these. It's
Yeah,
just
no,
going
you
to
should
be,
copy paste each command and do them individually. That's very important. Oh man, Lunch Devs, Michael Chan's even live right now.
damn.
That's funny. I'm going to go
The,
water. I'll be back in just like 15 seconds.
I'm counting. Yes, I love how like everyone is streaming today. Everyone, all at once. How many streams are y'all watching at the same time? Because I know that you want to like check in on all of us and make sure we're doing good and support us all. So, how many are you watching at once?
Okay, I'm back.
Yay!
All right,
Okay.
and pop that baby open, and then drop that JavaScript code in there. So
What
so
code?
you used Express with Ramon on your very first
Yes.
episode. So that's what this is going to be. What were you about
Okay,
to say?
cool. That I finally got code dot to work. The reason
Hey, what's
being,
up?
okay,
You're a
this
senior developer.
this is why. And it's because when it installed in download still. For some reason, it did not auto install to applications. I had to manually move it to applications where most things, when they download and you drag and drop to install it, they auto move to applications. It did
Well, they
not.
don't auto move it. They usually pop you up with a little window where they have your applications folder right next to it and say drag it from here to there. So they
Yes.
basically stick that step right in front of you so you don't forget it.
Yes.
Yes.
Except
Yeah, you don't want
VS
any,
Code
so it's in your
doesn't.
downloads. So it's in your downloads folder. Yeah, so check your downloads folder every day and make sure there's nothing in there from whatever you were doing. This is going to be a source of
Yes.
confusion for the rest of your life.
I am much better about checking that now. And
If you
Alien
want a
says,
fun story about a thing being in a folder that you didn't know, so your whole life was destroyed, I once had a node modules folder in my root directory that I didn't know about, so that anytime I would download a project, enter it, and then run a dev command, nothing would happen. So I was unable to run a dev server on my computer for like the first 2 months of my boot camp because no one could figure out the problem. So I wrote everything in a code sandbox, and then I would fork the code sandbox into a Git repo, and then I would deploy the Git repo on Netlify. So I deployed my project every single day to show it to my teacher. So I actually learned how to deploy projects like 3 months before everyone else because I couldn't run it on my computer. Isn't that incredible?
is that why you like wanted me to use Vercel as like my first one so I could show that things I
Exactly.
built?
Exactly.
It didn't make sense until like a couple months, probably like 2 months ago. I had a interview with a company and they were like, "Hey, talk about why you love Astro." By the way,
Mm-hmm.
this interview was not with Astro.
Yeah,
It was just they were
I
like,
had an
"Hey,
interview with
this,"
Astro once.
and it was I compared why people deploy on Netlify or Vercel, just the experience itself, and I was like, I really like Vercel, like just the way it, works. And thank you, Scott, for the follow. Ooh, oh, that is what you should come on the show. No, I feel like Dan should complain, explain what Astro is. Okay. Anyway, I got it. It's showing. Let me go back now. Why did
So we
you?
gotta change that to say teach Jenn Docker.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's get you always gotta change something, or else it's not a tutorial.
And I actually know what we're doing now because
Yeah, you got a port, you
so
got a host, you got a thing, and the stuff.
mhm, mhm. And this is like new. This is not something that I knew how to do back in the day. I'm so proud.
Yeah. Cool. So the next part is gonna be the actual Docker file. Yeah, look at that. That's true. And
It's my
you
go-to.
need to turn and restart your server because I don't even include NodeMon in this example. Although apparently Node 18 has a way to do that. I have to
Well,
look
I
that up.
already restarted the server,
Right,
changing
which you
my
normally
name.
have to because Node itself does not watch for changes. But I think Node 18 might have a way to do that if you pass it the right flag. I don't know how to do that right now, but I'll look that up later. Anyway, let's go to the next
Okay.
steps. This is where the Docker stuff actually starts.
Oh, I should probably install the extension.
Yes.
Install. Install. Oh, that was exciting. Thanks for the install. Okay, so then we're going to copy paste.
Yeah, so let's copy the whole thing, and then I'll talk about it kind of line by line. There you go. Yeah, it's just a
I, I,
watch flag.
I,
That makes sense.
I can say, y'all, in case anybody was curious, if you want to see me struggle with node versions, especially because we were talking about VDougie earlier, that episode, I struggled with node versions. It was interesting to say the least.
And this is why I use
Okay.
Volta, because Volta makes it really easy to manage your node versions.
Mhm.
You should open your window up so we can see the whole thing.
All the things. Okay. Do, 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 do.
At least top wise. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Let me just kind of walk through this real quick, and then you can ask me questions about individual things if any of it confuses you. First step
Cool.
defines we're using Node, where it's Node 16, and we're running it in Alpine. So Alpine is a Linux operating system. So if we left off Alpine, then you would not download the same bundle of things, because this is running it's running Linux and it's running Node. So you can choose to run different kinds of Linux because different kinds of Linux have different dependencies. So this ensures that your Docker file ends up small and lightweight. It's going to be like 100 megabytes instead of like 2 gigabytes. So that's the only reason why we're using Alpine specifically. For someone who's new to Docker, this is like totally not that important, but just for the record, for people who are watching this and are confused about what this means, there's your explanation of why we're using Alpine. It's just a way to run Node in a very small Linux operating system.
And this also helps because you don't know if you'll get, we receive questions from, 9 months later. Yay.
Yeah, totally. Okay, then workdir, this is like the working directory for your project. So it spins up a Linux server for you with a file system. That file system is /usr/src/app. And the code of our project, which is just a single JavaScript file, is going to be plopped in that kind of working directory.
Cool.
Then we're copying over the package.json and the package lock.json. That's why there's a star after package before the .json. And that is so when we run this server, it will have the dependencies. So what's happening here is kind of what happens every time you run a JavaScript project on your computer. You create a directory, you have a package.json. That package.json has some dependencies. You install those dependencies. That pulls a bunch of code onto your computer. Then you can actually run the project on your computer because it has all those dependencies. So we need to first copy over the package.json file. We then need to run npm install, which is a command you've run tons and tons of times. Then after you run the install command, you copy the dependencies into it. So that's why you first copy the package.json, you then run the dependencies, you then do another copy step. Then you expose your node on a certain port, to expose it on 8080, and then you say, hey, we're going to run a terminal command. That terminal command is going to contain 2 blocks, the word node, and then index.js, which is what you ran when you first were testing out the thing. So basically, this is a way to take the whole process of sticking your current repo and the code in it into some sort of container that will download the dependencies and then run the thing. So this is the image. This is the image that we're creating that will be built into a container.
It makes enough sense. It does make enough sense.
That's an explanation that you'll have to go through a couple of times. This is why it took me like weeks to write the blog post, because I took each of these steps and had to research the word, figure out what the Docker definition was, explain how that definition maps to this project in particular, and then find the words to actually explain it. So I had to actually write this down step by step, go through it many times, understand what it was conceptually, and then figure out a way to explain that to other people. And it's like, it's not simple, but once you get it, you'll be able to look at something like this and it just like instantly makes sense. And it's actually an extremely concise way of putting this into a like a reproducible thing.
Without you like saying what all of these were, I would have gotten that it was Node, but I would have had no idea what Alpine was.
Yeah.
Work directory, now that I am seeing it, but I would have been like, workdir? I don't know what workdir is.
Micdir.
Yeah, it's
Micdir, where you get your
burgers. It might have been hit or miss. Copy package.json, package.json, yes. Run npm I think I always do npm install, so I don't know if I would have gotten
I is the short form for install, and you could change that to just say install and it would still work.
I'm gonna do that so that way I remember it.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll leave it the way it was and then put it in the notes.
Okay. Yeah, that
makes sense. And then copy work. I wouldn't necessarily have known what it was copying. And
That's the step that could be a little confusing because you have to think from perspective of this is a computer you're loading code onto and then you're installing those dependencies just like you would on your own computer, in which case you have that fat node modules folder in your project.
mhm. And then expose 8080. If it was a different port number, I don't think I would have gotten this. Because it's 8080, it makes sense to me.
Classic port.
And command node and index.js. Totally makes sense. Save. Yay. All right, let's put you down in the
And then the
corner.
next step is your Docker ignore, which is like a git ignore. So this is to basically ensure that stuff doesn't end up in your Docker image that doesn't need to be. So it doesn't really need like your git information and the node modules, because you're basically, it will figure out exactly kind of what dependencies you need. This is the step that I don't actually understand that well, so we don't need to talk about it too much, but it's not going to mess with anything. So just copy paste that over. Let's just go build the image.
Yay. Okay, so we got it saved. Everything's set up there. Okay, yay. So,
All right, so now we got these 5 Docker commands. These are the only 5 commands you're going to need to know for an extremely long time. So it's going to do everything you need to do. The first one is going to build the image. So this is where it's going to go from an image to a built container that can be run. And this is just something that's going to happen inside your computer. You just have Docker running right now, but it looks like I see it up top.
It is.
So if you click so you're already good. So that needs to happen before you can run this next step. If you don't have Docker open, you run this step, it's not going to work, and you'll be very confused until you start running your Docker program. That happens to beginners all the time, very frequently. It happened to me like at least 5 times.
I feel like I'm going to write that down really quick because, yes, I know you always are like, hey, you probably don't need to write that down for past
I never
things.
say that. You should write down everything.
You did. Because you were like, hey, they may not like need that in the future if I was writing it for someone else. And that's when I clarified, I'm writing it for me, not necessarily for a specific audience.
Right, yeah. For the most part, though, you should just write for yourself and assume that there's others like you as your audience. So whatever it was that I was saying you shouldn't write down was probably fine to write down, because it's very hard to include too much information. I've found almost everyone includes not enough information.
Okay, build and run Docker. Okay, cool. Yay. And so we'll go here and let's do this.
I think this is Alexis in the audience with Peachy Lex. She was asking Scott if it's their first time learning about Docker. It's her first time learning about Docker. So, and this is what you started learning Docker like 2 weeks ago, you said?
Yeah, like I knew, well, let me link the first time I ever looked into Docker. We talked about Kubernetes at the same time and PowerShell. It was intense, but I definitely feel like it was worthwhile because it was a lot of high level content that made what I'm working on now make more sense.
And that's why it makes so much more sense to do those after you've already actually run through a tutorial that just gets you something working, because every time you talk about something theoretically ahead of time, it won't make sense, and then you'll do the exercise and then it'll kind of make sense, but you could have just done the exercise before even worrying about the terms.
Yeah, but
it depends. Certain topics are worse than others. For this one, Docker in particular, the terms were so confusing and the definitions were so opaque to me that they were just completely useless until I had actually done something. So you built the thing, and if you actually, let's stop right now for a second, and if you look in your terminal, you can actually see it ran each individual step. You see how it says 2 out of 5 working directory, 3 out of 5 copy, 4 out of 5 run. So it takes each of those steps and runs them individually. So if at a point in time you tried to install your dependencies and you had a package.json with a misspelled dependency, it would error and it would say, hey, this broke at this step. If your dependencies were all fine, but then you try to run the server at the end and there's an error in your JavaScript code and it crashes, then it would tell you on this step that there is an error. So right now, because I gave you working code that is going to work flawlessly, there is none of that. But when you're doing this, you will frequently get errors within individual steps that you need to be like, okay, why did it break on this individual step and how do I fix that?
Fair enough. I feel like just to something that you were just talking about on being new to tech, if you're doing self-learning, for myself, it was really helpful to understand theory of Docker and Kubernetes specifically, just because not understanding the big picture really helped. I struggled with understanding why am I doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I
what was
say
the
that
big picture from your point of view?
a lot of it was what is Docker and Kubernetes and why is one used over the other? And
Right. So
what's
how
the
would how
difference?
would you define that right now? I'd be curious.
Ooh, okay, so I know it's not a virtual machine to explain Docker, but it's easier for me to conceptualize it as
Sure.
that
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because it's like, okay, cool. Like you're basically building on a little container in your
Mm-hmm.
computer, but it's not just on your computer. It's something that if you put it onto the Docker website, in your
Other
like,
people could run it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Where locally you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be set up exactly the same way as
Mm-hmm.
if you do a GitHub project.
Totally. Yeah.
Like
And then Kubernetes, how does that relate to Docker?
Kubernetes, and this is the way I explain it in my own head, not
Uh-huh.
necessarily how I think it works for everyone. Kubernetes is like, you could say almost like Docker on steroids, because instead of there being like one container, there's a bunch of containers that are connected to each other that
Yeah.
can be
Mm-hmm.
set up as all duplicates of each other. Like if one fails, something else will pick it up,
Mm-hmm.
or they can all be different containers. And one of the key parts of using containers in like Kubernetes is the fact that it you can expand your own resources much easier and do more like pay per use rather than having to do like a virtual server that will just have X amount and you're stuck with it.
Totally. Yeah, so it sounds like you got a good handle on what they are then. Because for me, the big unlock is like Kubernetes is a bunch of Docker containers talking to each other for whatever reason you want, which is understand as important because you need to understand you really should not even think about Kubernetes until you understand how to just work with a single Docker container because like what that even is and how it works with other Docker containers in this larger system is going to be extremely confusing until you at least have some handle on what a Docker container is. So that's why once I went down this
Mhm.
rabbit hole of creating this article, I realized I could spend years learning about just Docker and never touch Kubernetes at all, which is exactly what has happened. I have never used Kubernetes. I tried to install a bunch of Kubernetes tools and figure out Kubernetes hello world, and it was even 10 times harder than the Docker documentation. And I knew I was not going to be actually working with it anytime soon. So I have still never actually used Kubernetes, but every dev will use Docker probably a lot. Certain developers will use Kubernetes at their work for certain specific reasons, but a lot of devs there's really no reason to use Kubernetes. And if they're trying to use Kubernetes but they don't need it, then they're going to have an even worse time than someone who does use Kubernetes and actually needs it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's definitely something that Lex, if you go look at the video that I posted earlier, it is very complex, yet it helped me at least start thinking about things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad my explanation helped. So that I'm really happy about that. And I also wrote a blog of some of the things that helped me break it down of like a server, a hard, like a bare metal server to a um, virtual machine to a. Here, I will show you. I have a cool graphic. I was very excited about my graphic.
Graphics are turning.
And I had to write this for a possible blog for someone else, but they didn't want it. And I was like, sweet, I'm going to keep it. Thank you. Yay, Canva. And Josh, I'm so glad you're still here. So, yes, we got it deployed. Let me go back. And did I run images yet? I don't think so. Did I? No. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so run images. And what this is going to do is this is going to show you the image that you just built and probably a couple others. So open that up wideways so you can see it a little clearer.
There
Yeah,
we
there we
go.
go. So the one we created is at the very, very top. And you can see actually when each of these, when you created them, it'll tell you when you created them and how large they are.
Which is interesting because
So you
the
already did a Docker
Alpine,
tutorial and you already have an Alpine thing.
and I was like, but those were some of the defaults that they talk you through, but
Mhm.
it didn't really make sense to me while I was doing it.
Good. Hopefully
So
this makes more sense.
it does. It
So what this is
does.
going to do now is it's going to run your container and it's going to take port 8080 and pipe it into 49160. So now we're not going to access 8080 anymore. We're going to access a different one. So that's why you have two port numbers here. And then you're running it in there's a -D there for a flag, which just means you're running it in detached mode. So it's not going to like hang with like a server on it. Your thing is just going to kind of kick off and it'll be running in a background port. So if that doesn't make any sense, you'll be able to just run the next couple
No,
commands.
it's actually I'm thinking about it because with Postgres, because we were doing it with Docker and then we wanted
Mhm.
to put pgadmin on it, it we were running into a lot of port issues. So
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
wondering,
Another reason why running Postgres on Railway and grabbing the connection string is great because you don't have to worry about it conflicting with ports on your computer.
there we go. Don't know why that came up, but sweet. And
Okay, so now we're going to see the list of actual running containers. So you have a long list of images you've already created, but right now there should not be a lot of running containers. So we only
just
have
the one
one.
we
So that's
created.
exactly. And it will tell you the name of the image, and it'll tell you the command that's being run, which is not the node index command. It's like the Docker entry point command. So it's kind of one level abstracted. Most of this information is not super important except for the actual ports and the container ID. So you can see the ports it's running on, which I already kind of explained. But we're going to do this, and you're going to grab the container ID that it spit out there and plug. Yeah, you got it.
I was trying to copy and paste them out of order. Why don't you ever do that? I feel like it does a lot of really cool things, but
And
at the
so, and
same
make
time,
sure to get rid of the brackets on the end.
oh, do 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 do.
Great. So that's how we know it's running. So now we need to open
So
local.
could we
Yeah.
use the name, like Angry Albakion, however you want to say that? Could we use that instead of the container ID?
Possibly. I'm not sure. Either way, you would have to run a command to look that up. So to me, it doesn't really make a difference.
Well, if it's like right here, that's why I'm wondering. Do, 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 do.
There you go.
Oh,
Just
you
learned a thing.
can.
Look at you go.
That's fun. That's fun. It's also
So
the names come.
so now we should actually open this in a browser so we can see our beautiful website once again. And so it's not 8080, it's 49160.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. 49160.
Exactly.
Yay!
And it should be the exact same thing. You did it. You're running a Docker container.
Yay! And then something that you have at the very, very end, and I feel like I always forget. What does curl do?
So curl is a way to basically hit a URL and just get the text input that the browser is interpreting. So do it and you'll see what happens. And I'm
Okay.
also including the headers as well. So it includes like the content type and the e tag and things like that. And then below that is the HTML that the browser is receiving, which is just a single H2 that your Express server is giving you.
Okay. And then, so I'm in Docker
And then you'll
itself.
see it there running at the
Mhm.
bottom. You should bump up your font on your Docker desktop.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So you
Yeah,
can
it
see it's running right now, and you can go
like
inspect it. So click it, see what happens. I don't use Docker Desktop super often, but it'll give you a whole bunch of other information about it.
so this is something that I had to learn as a newbie looking at this. You can't, it's not the image or the ports
It's the
or that.
container. Yeah,
You actually have to click on the name.
yeah,
It's very annoying.
totally. So try
So you can
inspecting it.
inspect it.
or terminal.
And
Yeah, just go through all of them. Yeah,
yeah,
see
so
what
you
comes
can
up.
do commands within it. You can see its files and stats about it.
There you go.
Pretty cool. I
Super
dig it.
tight.
And I still don't understand the difference between, like, I get it, but I don't get it. It's going to take me a bit to
Yeah,
understand, like, the difference between images and then, like, a project or something.
yeah.
I will get there. I will
Yeah,
get there.
image is a squishy word because it's just the code that represents the thing that you're running, which is contained entirely within the Docker file and the Docker ignore. So the image is like a series of steps that reproduces an artifact. So it's going to be different for every project depending on what your dependencies are, what your node server does, and all that kind of thing. But once you have it, and you have the images created, then anyone can take that image and run a container based on that image. So the image is what takes a long time for an individual person to create, so that
Hmm.
lots of people can run that image without needing to think about it very much.
Very cool. And then something that's not on here is like the hubs. And the hubs is how it's set up to save to your Docker account. Because
That's in
right
my blog
now,
post actually. So there's steps after this where I explain how you would publish this onto Docker Hub if you were so inclined.
yay,
I didn't
that's
include those in the
good.
gist here because it would have taken. We shouldn't do it because it's going to add a whole lot of
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, no, that's
That's like a
totally
whole separate
fine.
episode.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I mention it because right now, even though I put this is using Docker, it's local only. It's only on my
Yeah.
computer. It is not generally accessible.
What I recommend before you even do that though, right now what you should do is you should commit this to a Git repo and save it.
Well, you know what, y'all? I'm not going to do it with CLI because I always
I can tell you
forget.
how to do it. Do you have the GitHub CLI?
Yeah, but look, I can initialize a repo here.
I mean that's fine too. The getting it onto the actual GitHub website is the main thing. Oh wait, actually, sorry, we need to create a git ignore before we do this. Don't do that yet. Don't commit anything.
Okay.
Create a .git ignore
Me
file, and then just
and,
put node underscore modules. That's all you need, and .ds underscore store.
and what? Dot.
Dot, and then all capitalize ds underscore capital S, and then all lowercase after that the word store. So sorry, get rid of the extra S. There you go. Yeah. Because then otherwise, when other people clone it down to their Apple, they get this stupid .ds store thing. It's super, super obnoxious.
New repo. Commit. Yes. Publish branch. Okay, that's fine.
Make it public, not private.
Well, I can go back and change it. Open on GitHub. Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, no, you should make it a
Oh,
public repo because the
I'm
whole point
going.
of these things is it's a learning exercise for others as well.
I I wasn't against making it public. I was against not clicking it. But
You're
then we
against
have
not
this.
clicking the first option it gives you reflexively without reading the instructions. I know it's a
Yes.
strong urge you have. I understand.
Yes, it is something I do on everything. And I don't even remember how to make it public.
Yeah, this is why you could never
Mm,
work in crypto.
no,
You would click the
no.
thing and then you would lose all your money and you'd be like, oh, I was supposed to click that thing. Can I have my money back? No.
That is what would happen. Okay. See, we were just really wanting me to learn how to make this public. Maybe. Pushes. Change visibility. Change to public. I want to make it public. I have read. Make it public. Aww. Oh. Um.
This is why you should have done it from the thing in the first place. Uh, Unintended consequences.
Ah. Okay. Yeah. This is why you don't always clicky clicky. But hey, I remembered my password. So we're good. It is now public. And we can do this.
So do one more thing
And
now. Add a README and just copy paste my entire gist.
oh my God, I was just about to do that.
Great.
Yay.
I was hoping you would do that. Yeah, just go to raw. Yeah, just copy paste that whole sucker. I can fill in my contact details and other stuff later.
Yay! Look at us. We did it. Oh, actually, we can do one more thing. Although I should definitely put alt text with this, but I'm almost done. I'm looking up the alt text that I put on other posts, so that way I don't have to rewrite whatever alt text I put. Dude, why is it so hard to see alt text on like if you open the image on Twitter, you have to like reclose it. And alt text.
Yeah, I don't know.
Come in. Hey, it's our faces.
Oh,
that was fun.
Did the thing.
Yay. Yay, we did the thing. And to take a page out of Scott's book, please make sure that you follow on Twitch and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow everybody that is currently in the audience right now. You can find me on Twitter at jenshaw.com, and you can find Anthony at AJCWebDev. Yay! I mean, like, Scott, like, I want to do that. Like, you do such a good job at it. Oh, yay! Enjoy dinner. And yes, everyone, thank you for this stream today and coming and hanging out. And tomorrow, I have a stream during your Twitter space, but y'all, they always have JavaScript Jam. Is it Jam? Why do I always get the name
Jam?
wrong?
It's because I also do the FS Jam podcast, so it's easy to confuse them. But it's just JavaScript Jam. And yeah, you should not. You should leave that section saved so you can come hang out and just do your stream before or after. Like, obviously, I'm not saying reschedule the one you have, but for the future.
Normally, I don't have streams on Wednesdays. Normally, I'm pretty good.
That's even better.
Yeah,
normally
I
you're usually there.
Yeah, but it might get over by then. I don't know. No,
cool.
No, it's like during the end of it. If you guys have a 2-hour one,
just some React Miami talks. Will his Okta talk on WebAuth and Henri, who will be talking about web page test and React performance stuff.
Nice.
So we'll be talking about that. It'll be fun.
Yay! Well, thank you, everybody. And I can do this. Yay! I'm excited. I will raid somebody once I figure out where I actually put my Twitch page, which is always really annoying. I don't know if any other streamers do that. I always like lose where I put Twitch itself.
Let's see, who should we raid? My Twitch is not opening right now, but if BW's still going, you should definitely raid him.
Yes. He is! Yay! Start raid. Y'all are gonna go watch a great stream. Yay. It's thinking, why does it take so long to raid? I never get it. Well, y'all are raiding now. Bye. And yay, they raided.